Amen, amen. I've got one quad, but I'm going to be preaching like I got two, all right? We're going to bring the energy tonight. All right, so this topic that we're going through at the moment of discovering God. I hope you like my colourful and exciting, sad, happy, depressed, you name it, background. So we're going to be going through some of the emotions that actually you might experience and go through whilst you're experiencing God. Because it's something that I've done quite a lot recently. I've felt ups and downs, but we'll get through that a little bit later. And so we're going through the topic of discovering God for the full year, right? And I think it's actually really fitting because it's not just a one season and done. You'll actually discover God all the way through your lifetime. So I think it's actually like fit for us to actually do it for more than just a term, right? So it's going to be a journey for your whole life. It is beautiful. There will be some tears. I'm a part of that club now. Hasn't happened up until about a month or two ago, but man, I'm proud to be part of that club now. So it's not just a one and done thing. As much as I'd love it, as Tegan calls it, a minute miracle, it's not going to happen. It can happen. I'm not doubting God's ability, but 9 times out of 10 it won't. So it's actually something that you need to do. It's not on us. Your leaders, we can't do this for you, right? You have to make this decision and run with it yourself. So we know, like, we can help you, right? The leaders can preach some bangers. Josh has done a few recently. We can give you great advice. I don't know what to do. Like, help me in this situation. We will give the best advice that we can based off of our experiences. But like I said, at the end of the day, we can't live our journey faith for you, right? You have to live that for yourself. But that's something that we're really happy and willing to actually journey with you guys in it. So this isn't actually like, I'm just going to go on a bit of it. So almost like the structure of my sermon is basically preface, a few funny stories, and then I'll get into my points. I don't even really have points realistically, but I'm going to run with it. So I want to ask you a question. And I want us to actually sit on this for a minute. So are you going to take ownership of discovering God? I'll say it again. Are you, not me, not Josh, not Alex, are you going to take ownership of your journey in discovering God? And look, to be honest, if you don't know the answer, that's fine. Because I didn't know that for a very long time, right? I only came to God 3 years ago. But it was the best decision that I've ever made in my whole life. And it's something that I need to own. Dan the man can't go out and have my faith journey for me, right? I have to do it. But I do want to give you one bit of advice. And this is where you start writing notes if you haven't started already. In your relationship with God, you only get out of it what you put into it. Must be legit. Advice from Jared. So in your relationship with God, you only get out of it what you put into it. So if you put 100%, God's going to meet you there. If you put 10%, he's going to meet you there. Because realistically, if you have a friendship or a relationship, it's a two-way street. If I've got a friendship with Alex, I can't be messaging him being like, hey man, how you doing? Oh, you haven't read? Okay, you've read it. Hey man, like, how's your week been? Oh, okay. If Alex doesn't respond, I'm going to it's not even the right one. My relationship with Alex is going to fade because he's not putting in that effort with me, right? And that's the exact same with God. Have you ever had some really cool friends, right? Where, yeah, we do. So if you've had these awesome friends where you can stop talking to them, you can leave them for about 6 months, you come back and you pick up right where you left off. These people are absolute the bomb. Like, they are awesome. I've got lots of them in my life. I'm very blessed to have that in my life. How do you think that sits with God? Because for me, that's who God is for me. I can leave him for 6 months, not that I want to, but he'll actually pick up where we left off and be like, dude, I'm so happy that you're back. I'm so happy you're here. And God is one of those awesome people that will do that. If you haven't experienced that, that's okay, because God will actually reveal that to you moving forward. So with this friend, that's awesome. So you've got the human version and you've got the God version, right? So there's only one God version, just FYI. So you've got this God who is like a million of these awesome friends, right? But with these people that we have in our life, we're probably going to let you down. realistically and truthfully speaking, we will more than likely let you down as people, and your friends will let you down. But that's not like God. God will not leave you regardless of your circumstances. He'll actually seek out the one and leave the 99 to come find you, right? He will always check up on you. And some people might be thinking, but Jared, like I haven't actually experienced that. I think you're lying. I want to bring your attention to Revelation 3:20. So in this it says, "Here I am. I stand at the door and I knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come and eat with that person and they with me." So the illustration that I was doing with Alex before, that's actually what God does. He actually comes and knocks at your door and says, "Hey, I'm here. Where are you?" If you open that door and say, "Later. No, I don't want a part of that. I'm broken." He actually says, "No, I'm ready to continue to come back." So God is calling out to you, "Here I am." Are you going to let him in? Because that's part of your journey of discovering God. Our relationship with God is going to be always going to be like our top tier friendships, but even better. He will always be there. With discovering God, this is going to be personalized. This is my journey with God is going to be different than yours. He's going to speak to me differently than he speaks with you. But what I've found really interesting is my relationship with God is going to be intimately different compared to most of you, but fundamentally the same. So how God speaks to me and how he reveals himself to me is going to be different to you, and that is okay. Because God calls us to have these spiritual gifts differently. If we all had the same gifts, that'd be sick, but it's not realistic, and that's not what God desires for us. So how he speaks to me is going to be different to you. I've gone through seasons where I've heard God differently. I used to go through, when I first started becoming a Christian and like dedicating my time to God, I used to go on these morning walks. I kind of combined having a dog with walks. That was short-lived, hey? But I was listening to worship, and God, he wrecked me one morning, and he's just like, "Hey, like this song, I'm actually speaking this over you right now. The words that that Corey's singing over you is what I want you to hear." And so God can speak to you through music, through worship, through sermons, through friends, through reading your Bible. He will speak to you differently, but it's actually a discovery that you need to go on yourself. In my discovering God phase, there's two things that I found really consistent. So the first one is how and when God reveals himself to us is intentional and purposeful. So there's been countless amounts of times where I've actually questioned God's timing. I've actually said to him, "Hey God, I want this. I know what's best for me. Give it to me now because I know what I want." And God has actually said to me, nothing. He's actually been silent because in that, the journey from where I am to where I'm going is actually better that he doesn't speak to me, because that then solidifies my relationship with him more later. So it might not feel like God's listening to you, but he actually hears every single one of your prayers. And every single time I've had this thought of, God, my timing is better than yours, he's humbled me so softly every single time. God's timing is always so much better than you can ever imagine and plan for yourself. Second one, what God reveals to you is usually out of love and kindness. So our little human brains, we could never fully comprehend what God is or who he is. I don't think we'll be able to do that until we actually get to heaven. Super excited for that. But we can't comprehend that regardless of how hard we try. We can try to understand a glimpse, but it's never going to be enough. But what I've discovered, right, is when God hasn't spoken to me or when he has held things back from me, it's actually been out of love and kindness. And it's not a father that's manipulative and doing it because this looks funny. He's actually going, "No, you don't understand this, but you will later. Trust me. Regardless of how you're feeling, trust me." So an example. I like to give examples, and this is my first funny story. So the last few months, I've been really trying to discover and like quantify emotionally the sacrifice that God made, right? On the cross. That is huge. Actually, laying your life down for someone is massive, right? I can understand that, like, scripturally. I can understand what he did when he did it, all those sort of things. But I never actually understood the impact that it actually would have on me. And I was praying to God. I'm like, God, just like, let me feel it. Like, I want to be able to feel this emotionally and say, God, I can actually tangible. I can hold in my hand the feeling, and I can describe the feeling that you would have gone through. And I went through about a month and a half of this where I was just constantly like, God, give it to me. I want it. God, I was praying for it. I was asking for it. And my little human brain, I'm so proud of this. So what I did, right, I was just sitting in my room. It's like, oh, I've got it. I've actually figured this out, right? So what I'll do, I'll go to God. Like, hey, God, I've got an idea. Let me run it by you. So what I did was I'm like, God, the only way that in my little human brain can think I can understand this is if you penetrate my hands and feet like I'm on the cross. Give it to me now. And I'm dead set. I honestly thought that I had to physically experience this pain, right? No, I'm not doing that. I've seen that before. Flashbacks. So, love this. So I genuinely thought that, and I'm like, God, this is it. You have to do this because otherwise I'm not going to actually be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to understand what it actually meant for you to be on the cross. Lo and behold, God didn't do it. I probably would have already complained to you guys about it by now if it had. But what kind of loving father would do that? What kind of loving father would do that to his ignorant, naive, and probably stupid child to ask for something so painful? I didn't actually realize how big that would have been. And upon reflection of this, I actually thought, I'm like, God, thank you for not doing that, because what would have happened, right? You know how like you want something really bad, and then as soon as it happens, you're like, no, I don't want that. No, I don't want that anymore. And you withdraw really quickly. I was laying in bed, I'm like, God, I probably would have done that. Like instantly, like the millisecond that you inflicted that on me, I probably been like, yeah, no, give it back. I don't want it. So looking at this request, God gave me what I needed, which wasn't the pain, rather than what I wanted, right? And in discovering, like in your journey, when you discover God, he will give you what you need, not what you want. So since November has been a pivotal turning point for me and my relationship with God. I feel like it's actually, even though I've been living a Christian life for the past 3 years, I actually feel like I've actually picked up actually owned my relationship with God and said, hey God, this is what I actually want. I've made my mind up and I'm actually committing to this. I don't want to be half in. I want to be all in for you, God. And it hasn't been easy. It will not be easy. I'm not I'm not doing a great sales pitch by trying to sell you something that doesn't sound like it's fun. It is fun, but just because it's fun doesn't mean it's easy, right? But Jesus actually never told us that it would be easy. So Matthew chapter 7, 13 through 14 says, enter by the narrow gate. So let's just pretend that the narrow gate's over here. So enter by the narrow gate, for the wide gate over here is broad and is the way that leads to destruction. And there is many who go by it, because the narrow gate is difficult. Yeah, because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life. And there are few who find it. So I'm going to ask you again, how seriously are you going to take your relationship with God? Are you actually going to pick it up and go through this narrow gate that's hard? Or are you going to follow the sheep and go into the wide? So there is going to be ups and downs. You will have people like me and all the other leaders here supporting you every step of your way. But I want to actually call something out really quickly. Your emotions, they are so valid. We want to validate and champion you guys with your emotions, because how you feel, they can feel like they're true. But I want to challenge you within that. Your emotions are valid, but they're not truth. We want to speak truth over you. And you'll have moments where you're actually sitting there going, God, I'm this. God, I'm that. And this is where we finally get to the title of my sermon. The sermon title is God, I'm blank. So whilst we are on this journey, we will have so many different God, I'm X statements. This will change sometimes more frequently than not, actually. I was going through Psalms in November because I was really trying to figure out how do I actually model this relationship where I can talk to God like vulnerable. I can talk to him with no filter and he still loves me. David, I felt like, was a pretty good way to do this. So I read through it one chapter after another. It is a long book. My goodness, it took me all of November. There was lots of ups and downs in that, but I learned a lot of things. And one thing that I thought David was bipolar, honestly. That man went from one like chapter, he was really happy, really like up and about, and then the next one he's just like really depressed and sad, and a lot of context I was missing here. But I just had this thought of, yeah, man, David's bipolar as heck. Like this is funny. So on that thought of being bipolar, this is my second funny story. So there's one morning, so the night before, I was upset, I was frustrated. Having a D&M with God, being like, man, this just sucks. Like, take this from me, all that sort of stuff. And I can't remember what I was upset about. It was probably boy stuff or something. I don't know. But I was so angry. I was frustrated. I was having a God, I'm angry moment. That's not a point, but I'm just saying. I was so angry. And I wanted something at that point in time, and God didn't give it to me. So I was actually really frustrated with him because I thought what I wanted was I thought what I needed. It wasn't actually what I needed. Other way around. So went to bed because I think I process things well when I go to sleep. So I wake up the next morning and I'm like, I'll go to the gym. I'll smash out a session and I'm just like, I'll get some dolphins running. Endorphins, just for those people who don't know, happy chemicals that get released when you go exercise. Up the dolphins. So I go to the gym and I'm pumping like songs like Phenomena, and I'm just getting high. I was actually vibing and I was having a great time. And I was just sitting there, I was just like in between my set, and I was just going, yeah, it's great, awesome, cool. I've gone from this depressed kid the night before to absolute vibing in the gym, and God, like halfway through my set, he's just like, hey Jared, can we have a chat? Yeah, right. What's up, God? He's like, remember how you thought David was bipolar? I'm like, I see where you're going with this, God, but continue. Yeah, right, keep going. And he's like, 9 hours ago, man, you were upset. You called David bipolar when he was going through wars. You're going through a different type of war. But like, how can you make that assumption? Because you're doing exactly what he did, except there's actually potentially years between each chapter of Psalms, right? So it's like, if you categorize David as bipolar, what would you classify yourself as? I was like, yeah, fair bump, play on. So that was one of many examples of where I've discovered how funny God is. He's got a wicked sense of humor. So, but the first point, it's not actually necessarily a point, but the first thing I want to talk about, or the first feeling that I had, my first statement was, God, I'm hurting. And when God gave this to me, I was just like, God, I've heard a lot in my life. I went 20 years without walking with you. What do you want me to talk about? He's like, tailor it to the audience. Don't talk to them about uni. Don't talk to them about work, because that's not going to settle with you guys. So I'm going to go to high school. Some of you may not be in high school, just coming into high school. But throughout my high schooling years, I reckon I went probably 80% of the time where I was either upset, bullied, probably 100% of the time being bullied, actually. I was hurt. I was depressed. I was living in this pit. There was so many things that like factored into this. There was teachers, there was bullies, girls, classic. But there was one person in particular, right? I'm not going to even try to pretend a name, otherwise I might blurt his name. So I was stuck in his homeroom for 6 years. I asked 3 years in a row to try and move out of his homeroom. Didn't happen. He bullied me every single one of those years. He made my life a living hell what it felt like anyway. Any name that you could probably imagine, I was probably called it. Realistically, he, as Josh would say, he casted and actually formed my identity, because what I actually didn't realize was I was actually letting him determine my worth. Nothing that I did was ever good enough. And it was all determined because of him. I later learnt that he had so many things happening at home, he put that onto me. Doesn't mean that that's right. I'm not trying to justify what he did, but I can understand, and now I can choose to love him through that, right? And with all these points that he was throwing at me, and all this hurt that I was actually taking from all these other people, I was creating this identity. And what I actually did, I was actually closing myself off, right? I would proactively choose to withdraw myself, because if they don't need to know I'm hurting, I can do this by myself. Trust me, I got it. I've done it for the last 10 years. Who cares? I can do it. God cares, first and foremost. But what I also didn't realize is that my strength is never actually going to be good enough. And what these words and these identities that are cast onto you, they actually hurt your heart. And they can actually really damage your heart. So I actually want to illustrate this. And this is where my awesome props come in. So, I'm not going to take this personally. I want y'all to hurl some crap at me. Lay it on me. But wait. Before we do this, I want this to illustrate my heart. So this is when I was born. It's in perfect condition. There's no hurt. Nothing casted on me yet, right? I want you, either it's been something you've heard, or you've been laid upon, or like someone's casted it onto you. I want you to tell me. Right? You're an idiot. That's a bit sketch. I'll have a go. Come on. Who's up? No one loves you. This is pretty hurtful. Josh, can I get you up? All right. So what I'm doing right now is I'm inviting Josh into my space. So I've just had, I'm going to pretend this is me. I've had 6 years of things hurled at me. Can you hold that one? All right, so what should a bucket do? It should hold water. It should contain. 10 years of hurtful comments. You're not good enough. You aren't loved. Nobody cares. On the outside, it looks like it's fine. But it's not. That's a lot of water. Just tip the rest out. So Josh. So if you look like this, can you see where the hurt is? Yeah. Can y'all? So what I've done, right? This is not metaphorically. Oh, this is metaphorically actually. If Josh is God, because I've invited him in, right, he can actually see my hurt. But because I've withdrawn myself, I've hidden myself from you, from my friends, from my family, from my youth leaders, you can't see that. This is where that Revelation 3:20 comes in. He stands at the door and knocks. If I don't let Josh in, if I don't let God in, how am I supposed to heal that? Right? Just stay there for 2 seconds, Josh. You look good doing it. So I got to a point, right, where I was trying to do it by myself. And I broke down. I wasn't a Christian. I was saved by the grace of God at 20. And what I didn't realize that I thought that my bucket was completely fine. I'm like, no, I've got this. I got this, God. But God actually revealed to me, he's like, hey, you got a lot of insecurities, man. Let me come in. No, I don't want that, God. I don't want that because it hurts. I don't want to wound or to air my wound because that hurts. What God has later revealed to me is that's where healing comes from. So I was damaging my heart without realizing it. Not at any fault of my own, but because someone decided to call me something that wasn't actually truth. My feelings are valid, but they're not true, right? So this bucket, representation of all of our hearts, right? There's so much hurt. We need to let God in. The next point I want to go through is, God, I'm trying. I've got to a point where I've given my life to God. I'm trying, but nothing's working. And what I'm trying to do, right? Call this one back again, please. What I'm trying to do is, this is me, metaphorically, right? Listening to sermons. I'm getting filled. This is Josh preaching a banger. Oh, this is great. Praise the Lord. Oh, I got someone praying again for me. Oh, they had an awesome word for me. This is great. Oh, I'm out. I'm trying, God. God, I'm trying. I'm trying, God. I just keep trying until I get to a point, right? That's going to be heavy for you. Where I'm like, I'm overflowing. This is awesome. God, this is so good. And then when I stop doing that, slowly but surely, I start going from that well. I feel pretty good because I'm about here. But give me a week and I'm going to be down here. Right? You can try. I promise you will fail. Without God, there is no hope. There may be this sense of feeling where you can probably just, yeah. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Cool. So there'll be these times where you might feel like you're running like that for ages, and that's awesome. And there might actually be this time where I'm starting to drip, and I'm like, God, where are you? Why are you forsaking me? You were overflowing me before. And now I'm half empty. It's getting down to about a third. God, where are you? Where are you within this? Because I know you're good, but I don't feel it. And sometimes we can actually feel like David, right? In Psalms 13, 1-2, it says, how long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts? And day after day have sorrow in my heart. How long will the enemy triumph over me? And I got to that point. I was trying. It wasn't working. It really wasn't working. And it almost comes into the song of when you try your best but you don't succeed. I was living like that for a few years. And these things that you're doing, your joy starts to be robbed. You're not happy. And you start doing things that you don't think that you should be doing, but you do it anyway. And in Romans 7:16, it illustrates it perfectly. I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not. But what I hate, I do. And if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good. As it is no longer I myself who do it, but it is sin living in me. I could probably comfortably say between 18 and 20, I wasn't actually living. I was this I was physically on earth, but spiritually I wasn't there. I was a nobody. And you go through this cycle where it's getting too much and you've been trying for what seems forever. You feel helpless. And you see other people, Josh preached amazing bangers. Alex just had this awesome breakthrough, but I'm not getting anything. God, where are you? I'm trying. I feel like I should get this. And it discourages you, right? But what if God is actually saying to you, insert your name here. Jared, you are so close. Just keep going. One more step. Please trust me. Trust me. In spite of how you're feeling, please trust that I'm good. No matter what you can or can't see, trust that I am good. Would you step out in faith and let me catch you? There's a net there. You can't see it, but trust me. Trust me that I will catch you. This I'm trying feeling is really hard. And I probably was in this stage for about 2 months. But it starts with a decision, because in November, I made a decision that regardless of if I feel alone, regardless if I feel crap, regardless if I feel like I'm abandoned, God is good and He is with me. But it starts with a decision. And it's going to sound different for people other than you. My decision is going to be different towards you compared to yours. But it might sound like this. God, today I declare that in spite of how I'm feeling, I will choose to trust that you are good. I'm going to trust that you will catch me, even if I can't see the net that you have placed out before me. Even though I don't know how you're going to make a way, I'm choosing to believe that you have laid out a path before me. This next part is the third feeling. Once you've been trying for this for so long, I gave up. I'm like, God, this sucks. God, I'm actually ready. I'm ready to give up trying. I'm ready to let you be my strength. I'm ready to come to you and believe that your goodness, and actually, I'm ready to believe the goodness that you've spoken over me, because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I was knitted in my mother's womb. I am not useless. I am loved. I was so sick and tired of living out of this casted identity where I actually said, God, I'm ready for you to actually lift that above me. You are so much bigger than this. And I'm ready. Whatever that looks like for you is going to be different towards me. Your I'm ready might be, God, I'm ready to take this seriously. I'm ready to try to hear from you. I'm ready to discover you. I'm ready to live in unity with you so that I can be known by the way I love others. But God, I can't live with this. Even when you fill me up, God, I can't. I'm almost empty. It's getting really close to empty. Time this well. All these holes. What do? This is where my friend Josh comes in. Duct tape down there. So logically, if it's broken, we fix it. How do we fix it? With duct tape. So what we're going to do, just to illustrate my point even further, I'm going to make it hard for him. That was a bucket, by the way. Because that's what it feels like sometimes, honestly. Now can you guys see it? You couldn't see it before because I was probably holding it like that. But you can't see it. You can now. So my baby brain was like, God, you're just going to fix it. Good. This looks good, God. I look good with duct tape. Lucky you can't see this on the outside. This is good. This is probably as good as, metaphorically, this is probably as good as we probably could do it ourselves, which is good. All right. So this is what God does, right? So God's fixed us. Awesome. And now, ooh, hello. Might take a shower. There's still a lot coming out, right? God doesn't do that with us. So rather than just fixing us with duct tape, what does God actually do? I want to read you a scripture where it actually tells you exactly what God does. So that comes, you can sit down now as well, Josh. Thanks, mate. Can we get a round of applause for Josh? So this is in Ezekiel 36:26. And I will give you a new heart and a new spirit I will put within you. And I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a new heart of flesh. This is what God gives you, right? What's even better, it looks nicer, first and foremost. But man, does it hold water a lot better than that one. It's leaking because it's on the outside, but it still holds the inside. God will give you a heart of flesh. And you might be thinking, Jared, like, what do you mean? Like that, it's in the word, I just have to trust it? Like, how do I know that this is truth? And that's because I actually stand before you today and I testify that God has done the same for me. I have lived for a large portion of my life with a heart of stone, and I truly believe that God has transformed my heart into that new heart of flesh. It doesn't mean that every single day I wake up, I feel like that is that heart of flesh. But in spite of how I feel, I'm going to choose and trust that God has actually done that for me. Because I know my God will never let me down. And what's really cool is this isn't just for me. This is actually for you. If you feel like you've got a heart of stone, God can do the same for you. If he's done it for me, why wouldn't he do it for you? If I'm so insignificant in the grand scheme of things, why wouldn't he do it for you? He loves you just as much as he loves me. God is a jealous God, and he longs for your heart. Because what does it say? Let's go back to Revelation 3:20, right? For I stand at the door and knock. If any man hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and will eat with that person and they with me. You just need to let him in. Because what he's going to do, he's going to open that door, come in. He's actually going to take your heart, throw it out the door, and give you a brand new one of flesh. So Jared, what does Revelation 3:20 actually mean about discovering God? In my experience, and this is me, I've discovered that no matter how many times I've shut the door in God's face, he's still always there. No matter how many times you say, God, not yet, I'm not ready, he's going to turn around and say, well, I am. But that's okay, because we serve a God that is a gentleman. He will actually turn around and say, that's okay, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll try again in a week. Oh, you're busy now? That's okay, I'll come back. And looking back through my journey, what I've actually realized is that even though I wasn't a Christian and wasn't giving my life to God and living a Christian lifestyle, God was actually there protecting me. He was actually with me every step of the way, and that he never let me down. So I actually want to take us back to the psalm that we read earlier, where David was talking about how he was feeling abandoned and upset. But I gave you a snippet. I gave you verses 1 and 2. But let's read all 6. So how long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will the enemy triumph over me? Look on me and answer. Lord my God, give me light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death. And my enemy will say, I have overcome him. And my foes will rejoice when I fall. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. for I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. So regardless of how I'm feeling, I will trust your unfailing love. Regardless of how I'm feeling, my heart rejoices in your salvation. Regardless of how I'm feeling, I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. So who's actually ready, right? Like I said at the start, we can help you. We can help facilitate this, but it's a choice you have to make. We can't do this for you. So who's ready? Grace, I might grab you up. That's a bit late, sorry, mate. Who's ready today, in spite of how they're feeling, to choose that God is faithful? Who's ready today, in spite of how they're feeling, to let God replace their heart of stone with a fresh new one of flesh? Who's ready that in spite of what they've been called, to not leak? Who's ready? There's actually a verse about God testing us. And what I actually feel like God might be doing with someone in this room right now is he's actually saying, try me. Try me and see what I do. In Malachi 3, halfway through verse 10, it says, test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that you will not have enough room for it. God calls us into relationship, and what he's doing right now, potentially for some people, I don't know. He might be knocking on your door and saying, here I am. Won't you come and answer it with me? I'm right here. Open the door. So what I want for all of us right now is you wouldn't mind standing with me. We're gonna go through one more song if the band can come up and do it as well, or if Grace wants to do it herself. Up to you guys. We're gonna have an opportunity right now to respond. And if you want to, that's great. Would love you to come up the front and would love to pray with you with this. But this is actually a choice you need to make. We can pick up with you guys and put you on the front, but that doesn't actually change your heart, right? God is knocking on the door of all of our hearts and he's saying, come and open it. I can only come in if you let me. So we're going to have some opportunities for prayer. If some leaders can come down and help out, that'd be awesome. So if you're ready, regardless of how you're feeling, regardless of who's spoken things over you, I want you to come down the front. Make that decision to open the door and actually come out to God. Because God is a jealous God and he wants you to come forth. But that's only if you want to. And if you feel like God is pressing on your heart to do it. I don't want to force anyone down here. This is a decision you